The Foundation has been nabbing and cataloging anomalies for a very long time indeed, with the most modern iteration managing to contain and number over 5,000 individual instances, and rising. That's a serious pile of monsters, cursed items, and weather events to worry about. Some may be cute and cuddly, think SCP-999, and others are totally safe if they're left alone. Thank goodness. But there are some more that should always be monitored, never out of the watchful eye of the Foundation, because if they were able to escape, we really don't know what kind of damage they could do. I mean, it's easy to jump to a worst case scenario, but let's be real, sometimes the worst is worse than we imagined. In the event that one of the more dangerous life forms makes it out into parts of the world we inhabit, it's probably best that you know what you're up against. I am definitely not encouraging you to try and take on an SCP, but hey, maybe you can avoid it a little better once you know its abilities. Make like Hero Hunter Guru and do your homework. Might help in a pinch. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we've got the latest and greatest of our ever popular Top 5 SCP monsters that can never escape series. Part 5 already. It seems like just yesterday I was calling out 1048. Before we begin, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you're looking for more SCP spooks and scares. Let's get started. Starting us off at number 5, we've got SCP-439. Who here is a fan of the worst torture imaginable? I don't know about you folks, but being immobilized and subjected to immeasurable pain is not exactly my cup of tea. No judgment, you know, everyone's got something, but stick with me and I'll introduce you to an SCP that will make your skin crawl like never before. Actually, I don't know if your skin could crawl after this one's done with you. SCP-439 is a grayish earwig that loves to crawl into the mouths of sleeping humans, all the way down into their lungs. If encountered while awake, it presents no more of a threat than a normal earwig. However, once this thing climbs down a sleeping person's trachea, it will settle in and subject you to a world of hurt. The first few hours after waking, the host will complain of chest pains and shortness of breath, followed by abdominal cramping. This tightness in their chest will worsen and a fever will rise until the host is incapacitated. At this point, the host will develop a disorder that's usually genetic and promotes additional bone growth into people's muscle tissue. This happens very rapidly and is extremely painful, often with bone spurs protruding through the host's flesh. The host will then seek shelter in a dark, enclosed space like a heating duct or a cupboard. In the first 3 days, without treatment, the host will become completely withdrawn and immobile due to pain and difficulty breathing. This is the final stage of the transformation on the host's journey to becoming a bone hive. Let that phrase sit with you for a moment. Bone hive. Okay. The host then enters the fetal position and their skeletal structure shifts until they are roughly spherical in shape, while new protrusions anchor them into place. Now unrecognizable, they've been converted into a sort of cage to protect their internal organs and the bustling new earwig colony within. The earwigs will preserve little bits of the brain and digestive tract to ensure that these organs still function, and they actually use the host's intestines to process materials into a nutritive slurry for the colony. The queen will produce between 20 and 30,000 offsprings as workers, drones, and warriors, just crawling around inside your bony body. Eventually a new queen will emerge and the colony will burst forth from the hive in search of a new host. And when I say burst, I mean they'll actually tear their way out. All but the queen will die over the next little while, and then the host will eventually starve to death. Yes, the host is actually still alive while all of this is happening. Experimentation suggests that they're actually still semi-conscious during the process as well, which a fate worse than death, to say the least. Filling out our number 4 slot, we've got SCP-3199. Colloquially referred to as eggheads, these are big, weird, bald chickens that could very well end the world if left unchecked. These giant humanoid fowl clock in at around 3 meters tall and weigh almost 800 kilograms when fully grown. They're thick. Just look at their SCP picture. They can run at speeds averaging 25 kilometers per hour, and upon contact with a human or animal subject, they will liquefy the internal organs and bone structure. This disgusting cadaver will then be brought and fed to the younger eggheads. Their reproductive cycle is what causes them to be so fearful, as there doesn't seem to be a limit to how many times these things can reproduce. They seem to do this asexually as well, meaning that they can just go on and on without, any other contact. So get this, any instance of 3199 fully grown or not, has an egg in them at all times. They will produce them often through a process in which the egg passes through the stomach, up the esophagus, and then it is vomited out of the mouth along with a viscous red corrosive substance. While this is happening, the chicken folk show extreme discomfort and emit sounds not dissimilar to screams. These large, rubbery off-white eggs are extremely resilient and have proven to be resistant to blunt force trauma, pressure in excess of 180,000 pounds per square inch, high precision blades, and long-term acid exposure. While it's easy enough to dispatch an egg head, the eggs themselves are hard to destroy. And the fact that they can reproduce at extreme rates means that this could easily represent an XK class scenario via overpopulation. Imagine living in a world where everywhere you look you see awful flabby chicken manticores vomiting eggs and acid. Although I wonder if the chickens fry up nice. That could be useful. Coming in at number 3, we have SCP-4616. This one's kind of an odd one, even for an SCP. It's a humanoid entity with superhuman strength and speed, and it actively avoids and destroys any and all surveillance equipment, meaning that nobody has actually acquired any high-resolution images or video of it. Hangs around farmhouses with properties that include wooded areas. It'll chill out at the edge of the woods during the day and wave with its right hand at anyone present, but it'll retreat into the woods if approached. At night, it leaves the woods to inspect the farm. During these expeditions, 4616 will actually do useful farm work. It'll rearrange objects and sometimes damage property and livestock. It will also bang and scrape on the farmhouse trying to gain entry. Any farmhouse resident who's outdoors during the nocturnal excursion will be abducted by the beast. Never taking more than one person during any given night, it will then drag their victim into the woods. Anyone who attempts to leave the property will be abducted as well. In fact, if anyone other than the farm's residents attempt to enter the property, they'll be beaten to a literal pulp. Yes, reports have shown that victims of an attack end up as a semi-fluid pulp. Those are the words that are in the report. Imagine the noises that might make. Just if the farmhouse that it's monitoring becomes empty or otherwise defunct, it will move on to the nearest wooded farmland and begin again. For the longest time, abductees were never recovered from the woods once abducted. However, more recently a ring of 37 oak saplings appeared on the lawn of a Foundation-monitored farmhouse. At the base of each tree was what appeared to be a freshly dug grave, and inside was a well-preserved human body. Acorns had been implanted in the victims while they were still alive, and the tree was allowed to grow within them, developing a complex network of roots deep into their bodies. It's unclear as to how long the victims were alive with the trees growing within them. For now, the Foundation is staffing the current farmhouse with D-class personnel with agriculture experience, cycling new members in via hidden tunnel. They're expected to return to the farmhouse by sunset and remain indoors until sunrise. They've noticed that 4616 has become a little more aggressive though. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-1155. More cursed graffiti, call the street sweepers. 1155 manifests as a work of street art depicting the form of a humanoid owl creature. It has sinewy forelimbs, claw-like hands, and often tends towards a predatory stance with eyes that seem to follow the viewer, kind of like any given portrait in a haunted house. Anyone who sees this image is compelled to investigate more closely, and if they approach within 2 meters, they will be subjected to a violent attack. This attack generally takes around 6 seconds and involves lacerations, dismemberment of extremities, whole or partial removal of soft body parts, and penetrating head trauma consistent with those inflicted by a large beak or talons. These attacks will not occur if the victim remains in sight of another person, and if the sightline is re-established while the attack is underway, it will halt. This is not recommended though, because the victim will die regardless, whether through shock or blood loss. If the attack is allowed to conclude, both victim and painting will vanish. There is yet to be an instance of victim retrieval, but the painting itself will reappear somewhere within 7 days. Whenever discovered, the area surrounding the painting must be quarantined, as completely enclosing it causes the relocation process to happen quickly. If you attempt to destroy or paint over it, it will also relocate. The Foundation constantly observes 1155 from a remote location while doing their best to keep civilians away from danger. Has anyone seen Velvet Buzzsaw? And finally at number 1, we've got SCP-4666. For this last one, let's get into the Christmas spirit, hey folks. 4666 is a long-lived humanoid of unknown origin. It's over 2 meters tall and appears to be an extremely emaciated, naked man of European descent. capable of instantaneous or near instantaneous teleportation to any location north of 40 degrees north latitude. The Foundation has no idea how to properly contain this one. Every year this SCP will become active for a period of 12 days between December 21st and January 2nd. This is known as a Weissnacht event. 4666 will appear at dwellings in one or more locations, always at family homes and isolated rural areas. The family must have at least one child under the age of 8, and that area must have snow cover that lasts the duration of the event. For the first 7 nights, children will report seeing it somewhere near the family dwelling, whether watching from across a field or at the edge of a nearby forest. They will also report waking up and seeing it watching them sleep through the window. Nights 8 through 11 will involve family members hearing footsteps coming from the roof or attic and an unpleasant odor permeating throughout the house. No cause will be found, making the parents suspect that they are being stalked or haunted. On the 12th day of Christmas, 466 gave to me 2 scenarios. The more common scenario involves all family members being killed, save for one young child who is then kidnapped. It will inflict incapacitating injuries to the family members while they sleep and then herd them into a single room where it kills them all ritualistically in front of each other. The kidnapped children are brought to an unknown location and forced to make toys. If they don't work hard enough, 4666 will kill them or hurt them very badly. The remains are then used to make more toys. Yikes. The less common 12th day involves the family remaining unharmed and the children receiving gifts in the form of toys crafted from these remains of human children. Bad Santa, my ass. This thing gives Krampus a run for its money. Joy to the world and all that jazz. Holy moly, what a list! I think I'd be a lot happier without knowing what I do now, but hey, knowledge is power. What do you think? Are there any SCPs that have caused more nightmares and freakouts than these? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's sneak on over to the last video and see what you all had to say. Connie Zhang says, SCPs are not real. Then we'd all be dead. Not all of us would be dead, just like a whole lot of us. Plus, most of the casualties are Foundation members anyway, although they do have pretty strong amnestics. Creepy Gaming says, you have cheesy jokes. I think my jokes are pretty Gouda, like cream of the crop, you know what I mean? Did you get those or did they fly right over your ched? Bobito Baker says, I feel like I shouldn't have to ask this, but I do. Do people think that these are actually real? Bobito, what makes something real? What separates us from fiction? Even if they are just stories, they're gonna outlive us all. Ifrit Demon says, she is behind you and getting closer, slowly. Thank goodness. You mind telling the demon to hurry up a little? And that's all the time we've got for today. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. A Foundation mounted freshly dug human grave. Nope, I'm just like adding words now.